Alright, so we're back with our episode 3 of Nuggets on the Go, and this is our season 2. So, hope that you have enjoyed episode 1 and 2 of season 2. And today we're going to talk about what is actually happening to the Singapore property market, and it's a little bit of continuation of the UOB webinar that we had late last year. This is also loaded onto our YouTube channel. You can have a look at our YouTube playlist called Talks and Seminars by Propertylimbrothers. So what has exactly happened ever since we moved to our circuit breaker in the mid of last year, 2020, and of course, right now, we are coming to almost, I think, the end of quarter 1. So we are now coming to the end of Feb at the point of recording, and the property market in Singapore has moved upwards in terms of its price index across different categories. Even HDB resale price index has moved up based on statistics at the end of 2020. Landed property has moved up, resale property has moved up, new launch condos has moved up as well. And of course, if you look at what are the ongoing prices in terms of new launches, you have realized that maybe early part of last year, or maybe the tail end of 2019, beginning of 2020, if you have about maybe about 1.5, $1.6 million, you can still get something in terms of new launch properties. But right now, with the same amount, it seems like the kind of property that you can get is getting smaller. I mean, last time 1.5, 1.6, easily we can get a 3-bedder. Now it seems like a 3-bedder is getting harder to be realized with the similar quantum, as they're all inching towards like the 1.7, 1.8 kind of range. So just 1 year back, maybe with the same amount at $1.6 million, I can get a 3-bedroom premium with a proper 3-bedroom plus a utility room. Now with the same amount, I can only get a 3-bedroom compact, meaning that there's no utility room, there's no home shelter. So it's a compact 3-bedder. So there is a vast difference, and as prices moved up in terms of per square foot, we need to really understand what is happening in the local property market. Of course, everything that we share in Nuggets on the Go on our podcast, this all based on our personal ground experience. So some disclaimer first. And of course, I think it's very important for us to understand that Singapore is really in a very different kind of environment compared to 10 or 15 years ago. The property market is behaving very differently. Right now, the very fundamental difference is that our price index has so many rounds of cooling measures being priced into it, meaning that it is very different from the past, whereby there were no cooling measures in the price index. Right now, if let's say you are fearful to enter into the property market, and you perhaps belong to the school of thought that, hey, I want to time the market for my own homestay property. So let's talk about your first property. Let's say if you're planning to time the market, you've sold the property maybe 3-6 months ago, you're hoping for a correction so that you can buy something lower. I think it is not advisable to time the market if this is your primary property for your family, because the key rationale is that in Singapore, it is very risky to time, because not just Singaporeans are waiting and eyeing to buy properties. There are foreign buyers and investors that are overseas. They are eyeing on our properties in Singapore, and the key reason is because Singapore properties are such a great store of value, and our land is scarce, our supply is extremely limited. There's only a fixed amount of properties that can be built in future, even though our government still have land banks going on. En blocks don't happen easily. It takes time to develop. It takes years for en blocks to happen as well. And thus, I think if this is your primary property, and you and your family, your kids, they are renting right now, you're trying to time the market, I think primary property, you can find a location the type of property that a family likes, enter into it. I think that's totally fine. Now, if this is your investment property, is your second property, your third property, you want to time the market, by all means. Why am I sharing this? Is because based on our 14 years experience, we have seen people who have timed the market and then they have to re-enter about 3-5 years later at a much higher price. And sometimes prices just moved up very quickly. It just moved up very rapidly. And when it moves up quickly, of course, intervention comes in from cooling measures. And there again, it reduces your leverage kind of positioning because the amount of down payment increases, or maybe the interest rate environment at the point of you wanting to buy changes, or maybe the taxation changes because there's an increased amount in buyer stamp duty and stuff like that. So I think primary property, at best, don't time it, buy something, live in it, hold the property. As long as you're comfortable, you've done your sums, you're comfortable with the money mortgage, I think that's fine. I mean, Singapore, very different from the rest of the world because we are very high ownership kind of culture. 90% of people owns homes. Majority own public housing, resale, BTOs, and of course, private property is always a kind of aspiration for people to look forward to want to own it. So there are uh, many varying degrees of demands of um, types of and profiles of buyers that are eyeing private property. So firstly, of course, we talk about the foreign buyers. Rationale, currency is strong in Singapore. So let's say if I am somebody that is in Indonesia and I'm a businessman and I own several properties in Indonesia, Jakarta. I bought some properties in Australia, in the UK. I look at Singapore, currency is stronger than mine. And if I were to buy a $4 million property there, I hold it for 5-10 years. Even if I were to sell it at a slight loss or at the same price and I convert it back to my own currency, the currency strength that has increased over the 5 to 10 years is actually a gain when I convert it back to my own country's currency. So that's actually what is going on the way that foreign investors are looking at Singapore, because not just is our property a great store of value in terms of price, maintenance, and price appreciation if you select the right property, but the sub effect is because of the currency strength vis-a-vis their own currency strength. So that's the second thing. And of course, Singapore cost of borrowing is extremely low. Not just are we pegged to SIBOR, of course, we have different rates from the banks. They have SOR rates, they have their own bank deposit rates and stuff like that. But now it's so low, you can get financing for your own mortgage for 1% odd. So that is one of the third rationale that why are property prices moving. And of course, the fourth reason is that Singaporeans themselves, they are the source of demand. Just take a look at the past couple of years. Close to above 85 or above 90% of most of the buyers, they are actually Singaporeans ourselves. So we are the ones that are buying the property, and HDB upgraders are buying the property. Families that own private properties are buying secondary properties. Some families that are well-to-do, they are buying properties as a store of value for their children. And of course, there are families that are buying properties and putting them as trusts for their kids as well. So there are varying degrees of demand that is coming in for properties. And of course, I think worldwide, if you look at some of the statistics, even after COVID, prices for real estate seems to have ticked up over the past couple of months. I think the key rationale is because when this sort of pandemic happens, most people are living at home. They then realize that space is so important. That's why there's a lot of focus on real estate. It is, end of the day, a brick and mortar shelter, is a place for our family to dwell in, is a place of security. At the same time, it's a physical asset that we can touch and feel. We can pass it on for generations. So I think, very importantly, we, of course, we are very fortunate to live in Singapore, but I think the key fundamental is that if you're a Singaporean, most importantly is that I think planning is very important. Plan your trajectory for the next 10, 15, 20 years, depending on what age you are in. Try to think about based on your career, based on your business. If you are still a young person, let's say you are 25 or 30, try to plan and think at which point in your life would a switch in the type of property be very suitable for your life stage. Yeah, so that's something that we want to talk about. And today's topic basically is really talking about the fact that I think we should not time the market if it is your primary property. So I hope that you can take this away, and I'll see you on episode number 4. And meantime, take care. Cheers.
Great.